Great. Also keep your microphones on mute during this entire webinar. And if you will be having any questions, feel free to use the chat for it. And if they will be more specific, concrete, or a bit longer, at the end of the webinar, we will leave you our info email and make sure you contact us via email. So on your agenda, on your screens, you will see agenda for today. And we will begin with Vernon, as it says. So Vernon, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. And this occasion marks a real significant moment in the history of YouthBank International. And we're delighted that there are people joining us from as far as New Zealand and Indonesia and India over into the Southern Caucasus region, and then connections into South and West Africa, and then back up into Europe, which is just great that you've been able to join us today. Now, the YouthBank history book was opened just over 20 years ago, if you can imagine. And there are some of you today who have a connection back to that period, and were really responsible for some of what I call the heavy lifting, influencing the skeptics, negotiating, weaving relationships together. And now much has happened since then, of course, and there are others here today for whom this is all new. And we hope this webinar provides you with the necessary information to consider becoming part of the YouthBank network. Now, I'm Vernon Ringland, and together with Helena Habdia and Katya Palic and Peter Little, and a number of associates and a board of trustees, we look after YouthBank International. It's a charitable company registered in the UK. And we invite you to take a seat at the YouthBank table for the next 40 minutes or so. And in that time, we want you to consider three things in particular, different roles that people may have. Now, if there was a possibility for you as a key decision maker to invent a future for your organization that would cede decision-making power to young people with responsibility to set their own agenda for change, would you see, or could you see yourself leading that conversation within your own organization? And partly this would mean you experimenting at the edges of what ownership means, or what resource sharing will mean, decision-making and organizational design. And for those who are investors and funders or donors, would you consider if there was a possibility for you to collaborate with other like-minded funders who would back up this idea of a values-led approach and promote a strategic long-term contribution to community building? And if you were in that room, what those conversations would be like? And is there something great in this for you as well in terms of that collaboration? And then for those who work more directly with young people, people who at their core are driven to use the YouthBank concept, who are curious beyond a Google search, who will persevere at creating a space for teams of young people to organize. And does something like this pose a rethink for you to look at how you work directly with young people themselves? Now, I've been involved in YouthBank from the very beginning, and that possibly means before some of you were born. And there have been many similar stories that describe the larger YouthBank story, because there have been thousands, literally thousands of people who have been involved in it to date. So I can only speak of how my own work contributed to that bigger story, and how the concept and the approach has evolved really over time. So really at the beginning of what was the Northern Ireland peace process, funding was made available to rebuild and create opportunities for and small confidence building steps between people. But there were few spaces and places for young people to set their own priorities and to look at, what would in their view be a more stable and peaceful society. So it didn't take really much imagination to transfer that opportunity into questions really about ways in which young people could be more meaningfully involved, to address those very changes that they would like to see in their hometowns. Now, these questions were still in my head, largely unanswered, some years later, when the idea of putting money into young people's hands and to trust their ability to work out the rules about, what would be the way forward, and it was just considered to be too much and a step too far and somewhat wasteful and foolish. And many organizations and funders were uninterested. And yet to me, this was a game changer. And the first breakthrough came way back in 1998, when the Northern Ireland Voluntary Trust offered me £25,000 and a year to test out those assumptions about young people's decision making and involvement. And in the same period, a few weeks later, at a philanthropy event in London, organised by what was then the Association of Charitable Trusts and Foundations, that platform and momentum was gathered apace when I met an American and an Englishman over coffee. And the American had these great concepts about young people's involvement. And the Englishman had lots of contacts. And I had the cash. And at that very point, the seeds of the YouthBank concept were defined and put in place. And the first signs of momentum were on their way. And it was only a few months later that the name YouthBank was used for the first time, created by a young Bengali man from Tower Hamlets in London. Now, sadly, he is no longer with us. And who would have thought his gift to us all spreads from Alba Iulia in Romania to Minneapolis in the United States, down to Pickettspurg in the Western Cape in South Africa, and to Gori in Georgia, and soon will emerge in Jakarta in Indonesia. The £25,000 was my calling card, which was matched by a number of London-based funders. And that was used in Northern Ireland to experiment and generate ideas. And in the rest of the UK, another 6 prototypes were also began as part of YouthBank UK. And so it's a simple magic formula. I'm calling it a formula that was brewing. Funds run by young people that ceded decision-making power. And this decision-making power was used to address the issues that mattered to them in their hometowns and their communities. Now, our first workshops were called We Need to Talk. And this was a heady mix of self-doubt and confidence. And as the process played out, issues on fairness and justice and how decisions are made came into sharper focus. And it has been my quest to persuade and cajole others to follow, to be joiners. And the YouthBank, to me, the YouthBank beauty and simplicity is that it excels at getting new or under recognized voices around the table to explore what really matters, to set that change or their change agenda, and decide on how to spend their own budget, and that the knock-on effect of enabling their peers to innovate and create their own solutions. So YouthBank, to me, is this collapsible bike, because you can take it anywhere on this earth and set it up, and it's adaptable. And that adaptability now extends to our current realities. And those realities for me are that we now live in an everything changing world. And this fact requires everyone to be able to contribute and to adapt to change. And with 1.2 billion 15 to 24-year-olds across the world. That's roughly about 16% of the global population. Youth change making, for me, is the new norm. And yet, the worst thing that society can do to anyone is to not want them, to leave them useless and unable to contribute. And the YouthBank experience, for me, in terms of what it contributes in your own location, is full of challenges. And at its best, aims to make empathy and creativity and teamwork and leadership and what we call change maker skills, to see them highly valued, as each local youth bank is sensitized to spotting new issues, those concerns, injustices, and seeing the implications and taking that action that young people feel is so special for them to be involved in. So Helena is here to tell you more about the trends that are not only impacting on YouthBank, but on work with young people in general. So,
thank you, Vernon. So the young people of today are the ones that are going to shape the future. They need to learn how to adapt to the fast-changing world through using soft skills. They have a strong appetite for financial education and are opening saving accounts at younger ages than prior generations. They're more focused on impact and creating change, and they will overtake millennials in spending power by 2031. They're a whole new ballgame. They don't drink alcohol, they're not interested in driving cars, and meat is off the menu for this rising cohort. They're also least racist, the least sexist, and the least monocultural of any demographics prior. Climate change is their engulfing reality. The leadership, participation, well-being of young people is critical to accelerate economic development, reduce poverty, and build sustainable societies. And yet, young people have restricted access to decision-making opportunities in their local communities. The increased recognition of the value of young people at the national and international strategic levels of policymaking has not been matched with the corresponding uplift in the commitment of resources to this group. It is our view that there is an underwhelming appreciation of the value of young people and the story of their agenda for change. In a YouthBank context, we would argue that impact cannot grow without greater access to resources and broader awareness of where and how young people can communicate their impact. Unfortunately, involving young people in activities that they design and run for themselves as a potent way of engagement exists in part and is available only to a small fraction of young people across the world. So why are the change makers mostly adults? Why are all decision maker roles adult roles? On most of the levels, we as adults hold the power. We create the programs and activities that we assume will change everything focused on agendas and themes that we identified through research. Why are we as adults both setting the agendas and creating the solutions? Do we really know better than young people? Can we really walk in their shoes and see the world with their eyes? The answer is no, we cannot. Young people are now living in a world that none of us lived before. It is new to us as much as it is new to them. We do have the experience, but who says our experience is more important than their experience? Did we really learn from our mistakes through history? Should we really be the ones responsible for the world today's young people will live in the future, or should they also have a say in it and be a part of the solution? There are many examples of efforts to create change in local communities to strengthen cohesion, a sense of belonging, and the self-organization of citizens through participatory budgeting processes. Most do not involve young people as decision makers. The YouthBank model is different because it seeks to integrate the best existing practices and insights to work with young people within the community at all levels to create a sustainable environment that has the power to change the perception of young people and shift the perspective on them and their local community. In the world of philanthropy, there has been a tendency to favor innovation over delivery, with funders looking for projects that are or appear to be in search of the silver bullet that will transform a particular challenge. We have learned that for YouthBank, innovation flows from young people. Enabling young people to ask good questions, clarify their challenges, and generate ideas that address them is the key to success. More than a third of 169 targets of the UN Global Sustainable Development Goals highlight the role of young people and the importance of their leadership, participation, and well-being. A major strength of the YouthBank process is that it captures and acts upon real-life experiences of the young people of the 21st century. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic forced everyone to rethink many aspects of daily life and how we go about business. The result is the rethinking of how technology can serve our needs and the realization that we now live in an ever-changing world. This fact requires everyone to be able to contribute to and adapt to change. YouthBank International is interested in the long-term change. We believe that the only way to truly build sustainable communities is to invest in young people. And for this, we all have to work together and change from old ways of working. It is time to shift the power to young people. It is time to enable them to touch real lives with real money to create real change. This was a bit more about the background and the problem, and I will leave Peter to continue with presenting our solution.
Thanks, Helena. As Vernon said, YouthBank is a process that creates positive change. It creates change for the young people whose projects it funds. It creates change for the places where YouthBank takes place. It creates changes for the young people who take part. Following YouthBank International Conference in 2018 in Istanbul, we have reviewed and revised the YouthBank process. We have focused on young people's journey through YouthBank and their role as change makers in their communities. We have produced a new digital toolkit that equips practitioners, facilitators, youth workers, anyone that works with young people to provide training and support to young people. Each YouthBank cycle takes the young people through 5 phases, each one made up of several steps. Each step has a range of exercises designed to go along with it, each providing a range of challenges for YouthBank members. I'm going to take you through that process now. The first phase we call Me, You and Our Place. Step 1, building the YouthBank team. The exercise challenge young people to practice getting past first impressions and getting to know others in the team. Explore aspects of their own identity. To explore deeper level of the choices, thinking and focus of other team members. To present talents and skills as superpowers and produce an individual ID and a collective set of skills and talents and passions for their YouthBank. The second step is understanding context, their context. The challenges here include to produce a map of the community using a variety of online tools, to map people and issues, including those who hold power and influence in the area that the Youth Bank serves, to produce a small booklet of each member's story and a separate story for the team. Moving to phase 2, values, challenges, change. The first step in this phase we call living the golden rules. The challenges include to make concrete connections and linkages between the Youth Bank golden rules, which were written by young people involved in Youth Bank, and the relationship with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. To understand the symbolic value and meaning of the images associated with each of the golden rules, and to associate these with the different types of Youth Bank activity. Step 2 is to begin to look at power and who has it. The challenge to produce a collage of 3 stories associated with being powerful, disempowered, and powerless. To formulate a group definition and local examples of prejudice, stereotypes, and discrimination. Moving to the third step, to begin to create our agenda for change, their agenda for change. The challenge is for young people to produce a 1-page summary of ideas for their agenda for change, their local agenda for change. Write and present an advert, a pitch, to promote diversity in their Youth Bank work. Moving to the third phase, resourcing and skilling up for change. First step, generating ideas. The challenge, to present a solution to a given problem with novel and creative features. To break out of normal thought patterns and processes and produce some solutions that address what seem like impossible problems. The second step, how to share your agenda, key part of any change. To produce a storyboard of their Youth Bank journey, to produce a draft set of Youth Bank brand guidelines. How might the Youth Bank contact different audiences? A challenge to produce a 3-month marketing plan for their Youth Bank. Step 3 in the final phase, establishing your fund. Sorry, in this phase, establishing the funds. Challenge to set a fundraising target for the Youth Bank team and come up with at least 25 different ways in which this could be achieved. Phase 4 is the grant making process, kind of at the heart of the whole thing. The first step is the call for applications. The challenge is to produce definitions and explanations for 5 criteria. To use a star diagram checklist sheet to develop ideas at a Youth Bank information event. To design a 30-minute Youth Bank information event. Once they have the applications, shortlisting is the next step. The challenge, to read all the proposals and apply a set of guidelines to determine who will and who will not be interviewed. Record the decisions as evidence that the correct procedures were used. Step 3, interview and report writing. The challenge, to reflect on the ability to prepare and present a Youth Bank report for assessment and decision making. To test the viability of the 10-step interview structure. Decision making. Next step, right at the heart of everything that Youth Bank is about. The challenge, to apply a simple decision-making methods to assess the quality of a range of drink products. how to use a weighted scoring system to assess YouthBank applications. Step 5, create a monitoring template, something that's often forgotten. To create and organise 6 great questions to find out what happened in a YouthBank funded project. What do you want to know about how people felt about the project? Find out from the team who delivered the project what they think has changed. The final step, contracting. To produce a draft contract form. To explore possible scenarios that may arise if the funding is not spent as agreed or a complaint is made against the team's decision. Finally, phase 5, making sense, impact, so what? First step, recording what happened. The challenge, to use a 6x9 storytelling grid to capture the essence and key events and produce a YouthBank storyboard. To use the image of a hot air balloon to gather information about things that affect funded projects. Second step, accounting for the money. The challenge, ensure the money you gave was spent appropriately. Step 3, deciding what has changed. The challenge, how might you capture stories of change in the community? Use a Diamond 9 tool to categorize and rank teams' impact to date. Step 4, the final step, capturing lessons, sharing learning, celebrating success. The challenge, to identify, design, and assess the content of a YouthBank case study. This process and these tools have been developed over 20 years of experience. Bringing them online and making them accessible to practitioners is a critical part of making YouthBank more effective and responsive in local circumstances. We have developed an online toolkit that will help practitioners plan, deliver, and record YouthBank sessions. By next April, we will roll out the platform. It will provide feedback and reflective tools, enabling practitioners to record their experiences of using the tools in real time. There will be a forum which will allow practitioners to network, exchange ideas, and solve problems together. It will also provide a place to record each YouthBank's progress, allowing us to understand the priorities and challenges that young people from around the world are facing, and understanding this in real time. This learning and data platform will continue to develop over the next 2 years, providing even richer information about the stories of change young people are creating through their YouthBanks. Alongside this development, we are currently scoping out plans for a funding platform that would provide young people with the opportunity to pitch their change to a global audience, enabling them to drive their own sustainable futures. What I have presented here is a framework upon which we intend to deliver our vision. Our vision is to live in a world where all young people lead change and make difference in their community. Communities, neighborhoods in every country where young people have make decisions of economic and social significance. We believe in this world. We believe in change. That's the YouthBank process. We're now going to hear from Kaki Gigori. Kaki was a YouthBank member back in 2008, and his story encapsulates the power of YouthBank and the potential of widening access to our program. Thanks. Over to you, Kaki.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone. And hello, everyone from Georgia, the country. I want to thank you, all of you, and I want to thank YouthBank International. I'm always happy and I'm always glad to have a chance to communicate or to contact with YouthBank. So I'm very glad to say again, I'm very glad to be here today. My story begins at very early, 2008, when I was 16 years old. It's about November of year, and the Russian-Georgian war is happened just now, and I am young people studying in the school. I'm a school student, and I don't know if there is something, some programs, educational programs outside of the school. I know that there is a school, and that's it. That's my first and last chance to be more educated. I have never heard about training, about non-formal education, and so on. So one day, our school, my teacher says that there is some competition for YouthBank members of, I live in Akhmeta municipality, and they are selecting people, young people from Akhmeta municipality. So I decided to participate in this competition because I hear that there will be a free hotel and lunches there because I didn't know the meaning of the training. I didn't know what was a training. And I was impressed by this hotel and training, which I understand and I hear that it will be free for me and for all the participants. And that's why I decided, frankly speaking, that's why I decided to participate in this competition. And I was surprised when I was chosen as a YouthBank member. Then it was Eurasia Partnership Foundation, now known as the Europe Foundation. And these project coordinators and managers decided to choose 7 people, 7 young people from Akhmeta municipality, and we were the first generation of YouthBank Akhmeta. So we went to the YouthBank immersion trainings at 2009. You can see the pictures. I am somewhere there, just 16 years old young Kahi who don't know where is he, what is he going to do, why is he there. And he is here just to entertain, just to have fun with new friends from all over the Georgia. And then there were foreigner trainers for our new members. And that was very, very surprised for me because we had, frankly speaking, that was the first case when I saw someone from foreign country. I have never I have seen only the Georgians here and Georgian citizens. And then they started that I won't have some exam after the training. I won't have some kind of school marks there. And I didn't get the score of 10 point like in school. And I was surprised, like, why? If I missed, how will you be able to see I studied or not, I listened or not? How can I impress my feelings? Is it free for me, or what the trainer says, it's just it? And like it was in our schools, what the teacher says, it means that God says, something like that. So that was very new process for me. I didn't know my abilities as well. I didn't know what could I do for my community because I was thinking that I was too young. And when the trainers started talking that I am young people and I can contribute for my municipality, for my community, I can make real changes for my community, I couldn't believe. We are 4 from the 7 people, 4 of us were classmates. So we were thinking that that's not real because we can't change our society. But we started, YouthBank have 16 steps of one cycle of the project. So we started step by step working on this project. and we saw that something happens to us. The first one was the attitude of our teachers, because they wanted to be involved in these processes. So when we said that no, unfortunately, that's for young people, we have to do our own. Our teachers said that then if you are against us, that this is something bad for you. So you have no permission to leave school. You have no permission to join some activities like that. Can you imagine, for the school teachers, the trainings was new as well. They didn't know what was the training, why it was good for children, non-formal education, even the teachers. But fortunately, we created our team. We were a team of 7 people, and we didn't let anyone to make decisions, and we were only decision makers there. And I remember when I was 16, I was playing in the yard with my friends. I am dirty, very dirty, and the foreign number calls on my phone, and lady asks me that if I am Mr. Gigauri or not. And I thought they are searching for my father, because I couldn't imagine that someone called me Mr. Later, she said that she's a school director and she wanted some more information about YouthBank grants and fund projects. So I was happy that at the end of this first cycle of my working in YouthBank, we had 5 projects funded from our team, and I remember now every project, every details. I remember even the names of the project authors. One of them was some like square at the village. There were no chairs, nothing, only trees. And there was one entertain square, one sports square at the another village. I don't know, you know or not, but Ahmeta municipality, we have a very big kind of diversity here. There are a lot of people from Chechnya, ethnic Kist people, from Ossetia, from different sides of Georgia. So we are almost in every village, these 5 projects, in every village where the different people live. So one of them was the entertain kind of fun competition, comedy competition, and schools were participating in this competition. And when the teachers, when the parents saw that we did it ourselves, they attended this activity. So they were like, did someone help you? And we were very proud that we could manage this everything together to fund. And we mean young people, the project authors who did this everything with themselves. So later I passed the exams at the university and I moved to Tbilisi. So I was first to leave YouthBank as a YouthBank member. And I was very nervous about that, because that was the first thing in my life when I saw something outside of the big wall, like iron wall from my municipality. So I moved to Tbilisi, and I had always some kind of connection with YouthBank. I was always asking the new members how is going on, the business on YouthBank, how are you, the new members, and so on. And I was very glad that later in 2013, Europe Foundation made the decision to create the alumni club of YouthBank, and we were planning some activities for alumni club of YouthBank. And later in September of 2013, they decided to create the team of the trainers for YouthBank, for a new generation of YouthBank, and these trainers should be elected from alumni club of YouthBank. And I decided to participate in this process because I wanted to be connected to YouthBank as well. I wanted to share my experience to the other people. I wanted them to be able to share their feelings without any barriers to me, because even now there are some cases when the young people can't share their emotion to someone who will say that this is okay. For example, if you're a man and if you're crying, that is okay. That's not very often to find someone with whom you can cry. For example, there is not very often if you can that you can find someone when you can impress your emotions when you're a man, for example, or when you're a woman, for example, or when you're a girl and you like playing football, you like wrestling or something like that. You can't. It's you. Maybe you can, but it's very difficult. And I wanted to be a person for the new generation of YouthBank, to be a person who is the young people feel free to impress their emotions. At this moment, I think that it's a very bit shaming for me, but I think that I have to talk about these cases because at this moment I had some radical attitudes on some cases. I was during the 2012, my life changed, my attitudes changed somehow. I will not start to analyze, but I will just say a fact that I had opinions with homophobic opinions, racist, sexist, and so on. I was thinking the man was the head of the family. There are no, for example, Georgian gays, and so on. Then I started. It's very difficult for me to speak about these cases, but I want to show how big impact is YouthBank in my life. Then the team of our YouthBank and our trainers didn't started that you are homophobic, you are sexist, you are racist, go away. For us, doesn't matter who are you, you are homophobic and just leave. No, they saw the person in me who is YouthBanker, who is the member of YouthBank. I don't know how to explain, but I somehow the YouthBank helps us in very, very big things. For example, at this case, now I know that I see how the YouthBank helped me. Now, they asked questions for me. I couldn't answer these questions. Then I started finding the answers on these questions, and I found out that we are all equal. We must not be separated by our ethnic origin, by our religion, by our sexual orientation, or so on. And I started communicating with people. So it doesn't matter for me who are you, what kind of, you are Georgian, you are not Georgian, you are Christian, you are Muslim, or doesn't matter for me. And the main thing was YouthBank, even my attitudes, my communication, to find my profession, because I wanted to be a journalist. I started my bachelor degree as a social sciences. I continued my MA at public relations, and I'm working as a youth worker now. So YouthBank helped me to find my profession because I saw how big impact can be someone or some program on the young people who want to express their emotions. For example, I wanted to wear green trousers, for example, and when I started wearing green trousers, that people looking at me like I was an evil or something from foreign planet, or I don't know who I was at this moment. And I wanted to impact the other people like YouthBank members, team members, impacted on me. So that was the main motivation for me to work as youth worker. I wanted to share to young people my experience, my emotions, and I remember one thing that nowadays some people think that young people can't organize, for example, the real money, we had the real money. We were the bosses of this real money, and we were the only people who were decision makers, how we spend this money. So even now, and even from my generation, I saw 7 generations. I started trainings from the 2013 and finished 2019. And I saw that people look at this money. For example, if my parents give me the money, that's my money, so I can spend like I want, as I want. But when we have the money from these foundations, we are discussing, for example, very much how to spend this money, why we decided to spend this money in this case, for example, in this little project, not in this project, how this project impacts, how can we impact to our society with the little money to have a big impact, and so on. And we have this responsibility because I remember we were even young people, for example, nowadays, when we call the young people and we have reimbursement of transportation, for example, some young people tells me that I'm in Akhmeta already, so I don't need my reimbursement because I'm here already. I don't need transportation, for example. So we can save this money for the another activity, for maybe someone who don't have enough money for transportation, and so on. So the responsibility of this money was great. Firstly, because it was new and maybe we were afraid something, but now we have fully realized from where this money comes, why this money comes to us, and what we are doing. And I want to mention last thing, that seven generations from YouthBank members. I was working with 7 generation as a trainer, and now I can see the impact of YouthBank to my society. Last year I moved to my municipality. I was living and studying in Tbilisi, and then the organization working at my municipality, Kakheti Regional Development Foundation, had an open call for volunteer. So I decided to come back, to move to my hometown as a volunteer. I left my job. I was working as a trainer there. I left my job. I left my friends. I left everything and everyone in Tbilisi and moved to Akhmeta. And here I had only one friend who was working with me, and that was it. There is no possibilities, for example, for young people to have just, for example, nightclubs, restaurants, or something like that. And I moved here as a volunteer, and I was working as a volunteer for one month. But my motivation was my community and the young people living in my community, because I see the problem still there. But I want to say in general that the attitude, for example, to the trainings from my community is changed. Nowadays, we are not first to call, for example, the parents that we want we want young people to participate in some our trainings. For example, 10 years ago, the project coordinators were calling to the parents. Then parents were deciding, will the child participate in this training, in this activity or not. Then they will decide to say this information to young people or not. Now it has changed, and the first program in Akhmeta municipality was YouthBank for maybe 3 or 4 years. So that was the first program at Akhmeta municipality. So I can speak for days on the impact of YouthBank on my life. And I want to thank YouthBank International. I want to thank every person who is participating in this process. And I can say that the main thing that changed my life, and I see every step of my life, is YouthBank. So thank you very much. I hope my experience will help you to know how YouthBank works on the people, on the persons. And I want to say, Katya, ask you to continue. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, Kaki. Thank you, Kaki, for sharing your story with us and for showcasing that we make impact on real lives using real money, which ultimately leads to real change. By now, you've learned that YouthBank International is UK-based charity that strengthens the bond between young people and their communities. How? Through our model, YouthBank model. We have been implementing YouthBank model all over the world for the past 20 years. The model is a mix of framework, training, and resources that enable every organization focused on young people to provide them with necessary support. Our model works and has been working in every part of the world, whether it's the richest and most developed part of New York, London, or Paris, or the poorest, least developed part of Egypt, India, or Vietnam. So far, we have enabled almost 500 youth banks around the world. You've learned by now that youth banks are funds run by young people with the purpose of supporting youth-led projects that address issues recognized by young people as those that need solutions to improve their communities. The story, however, doesn't stop here. These youth banks, these funds, have funded over 15,000 youth-led projects. These youth banks have involved over 4 million beneficiaries. And in the end, these youth banks have given over £7 million in funds. Just by these numbers alone, we feel you can understand our mission. It is to work with worldwide organizations who want to give young people authentic leadership, decision-making, and community-building opportunities while we grow the network and support young people through grant-making. We have been partnering with and have been recognized by the biggest social entrepreneurship network in the world, Ashoka, British Council, Europe Foundation, European Union, Mott Foundation, and others. Outcomes of Youth Bank model: decision-making, critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, idea development, digital illiteracy, financial literacy, money management, fund management, social entrepreneurship. These are all skills of the future. The only question for you is this the future you want, and how badly? It is time, and if you wish to know what you can do to be part of the change, I invite you to listen to final words of today's webinar. Vernon, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Katya. Just a few final ideas. So really, through YouthBank International, we aim to increase and deepen the impact of partner organizations. They are the trusted link that we have into the communities to relate to young people. And so we want to make sure our values match, and we welcome further dialogue and exchange and new partnerships. And so if you are an organization that are starting to love the model, attracted to it, can see its potential, and wish to know more, so please contact us, and you can find at the end of the webinar the details on the screen. If you're an investor and want to support our work, either directly to a host organization coordinating a youth bank network, or are interested in supporting the infrastructure of YouthBank International, that is about sustaining the foundations of the organization, then again, a call to us and we can start that conversation. There may be others listening that have connections with networks that believe might be interested in knowing more, and that by sharing our details with them, you would be spreading our soft footprint with them. So we wish to take a practical, an agile and flexible approach to the development of YouthBank, and to build a sustainable base for the organization in the longer term. So it just remains for me to thank you for your company and time, and we look forward to any feedback and thoughts that you have, or maybe ideas of how we can work together in the time ahead. And with that, I'd like to bring things to a close. Maybe Kathy may want to finally say something, but from me, thank you for your company today.
Yes, so as Vernon said, thank you all for being with us. Recording of this webinar will be sent to all of you in a form of a follow-up email with some additional materials. Thank you once more for your time, and let's hope this isn't the last time we meet. Have a nice rest of the day.